Welcome to our executive interview series at the UiPath Together Summit. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and we're here today with Dave Ehrlich, Director, Growth Strategy at Groundswell. Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to start by asking, where have you seen examples of automation helping agencies leapfrog or avoid the need for rip and replace technology modernization projects?
You know, it's interesting. I think the biggest benefit that I've seen in that regard is where agencies are looking internally at the processes they have before they start to modernize and look at where they can get efficiencies from automation without having to completely redesign systems and processes. I found an example where we were going through a modernization effort and the agency wanted to replace certain functionality of a human because that's the way it was done before. And so they had a process where the case was actually being printed and stamped by an individual, scanned so they could get the timestamp on there, and then run through the workflow that way. What we found by adding automation to the process was that there was no longer a need for a simple process like that automation could make something that we probably took for granted as an activity of a human. And then more importantly, having that human do other things, right? And I think that's the piece that was sometimes overlooked, was that if we take this process out for that individual, we're left with nothing for that individual to do. But at the same time, we're faced with budget constraints and cutbacks and potential debt issues that we're constantly looking for how we can do more with less. And we can repurpose those humans to add more value to the process or a different process that's been neglected in the past.
And then next, I'd like to ask, how far along are agencies in training employees to use automation to do their jobs more efficiently or do more valuable work?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't necessarily think we need to train the humans on automation because the automation is going to follow right behind them and help them do their jobs easier. You can't look too far in LinkedIn or in the news to find an article that suggests that AI is coming for your job. But in reality, I've found that because the bots are designed by nature to replicate human behavior, that as the bots evolve, human behavior will also evolve. And we'll realize we can use those bots to make ourselves more efficient and then move on to bigger and better things. And as I mentioned earlier, taking some of the more left behind processes that have been taken for granted around security or growth or whatever it may be, using the bots to handle what we were normally doing and then enhance our life to take the next step beyond where we were going.
Well, Dave Ehrlich, thank you so much for joining us here at the UiPath Together Summit.
Great. Thank you for having me.